You're listening to Kate Palmer for sparkletart.com, and today I'm going to do a simple journal page using my Starburst sprays from Lindy's Stamp Gang. I'm going to do a little bit of cheating to make my page turn out a little bit more crisply. I'm going to edge it using a frisket or a masking pen. Then I'm grabbing some of my beautiful pale Lindy's sprays in Saltwater Taffy, Tiffany Lou Blue, French Lilac Violet, and Blue Hawaiian Blue. These will create a beautiful soft page for me to journal over. To make sure that my colours go on the paper as smoothly as possible, I'm adding water to the page first. Keep adding water with a brush until you can see a sheen over the entire page. If you have any spots that aren't shiny like this, the ink will sit and soak in differently, and you'll end up with spots. The trick here is to add colour without completely soaking the page, because you'd like a little variation here. So I'm going to add a little bit of each colour, starting with the Tiffany Lou Blue. I'm then going to add a little bit of the Saltwater Taffy. Now this particular colour actually has a pearl sheen rather than a shimmer, so it's a really pretty bit of something different on the page. Next I'm adding some of the Blue Hawaiian Blue. This is slightly darker than the Tiffany Lou Blue, so I'm just going to use this quite sparingly. You can see I'm just sort of adding a little touch of it here and there. Now I've saved my darkest colour for last, and that's the French Lilac Violet. And I'm going to add this sort of as a pop of colour. You need to be careful because it can quite easily overwhelm all of those other colours. So just add a little bit at a time. Once you've got a little of each colour added to the journal page, you may notice that the liquid begins to pool in the middle of the page, or it might end up at the bottom depending on the slope on your desk. Keep an eye on this because you don't want a huge puddle, because that will start to muddy the colours. Now I'm going back in and adding a little bit more of the Saltwater Taffy, just for a little bit more of that pearly sheen. It's going to make things beautiful. You can see I'm beginning to get a puddle here. What I'm going to do now is just drip and flick some of the colour directly onto the page, and I'm doing that by just taking the pump spray out of the bottle and using the tail of that to distribute the colour. If you start to get a large pool of liquid on your page, grab a paper towel and just mop up a little bit. Don't hold it on the page for too long because it will remove some of the colour, but just sort of dab and take some of that excess liquid away. That also lets me add a little bit more colour. I've left my page to dry. It took a couple of hours, and then I've opened up my journal and flattened my page just under a heavy piece of metal overnight. This has made sure that the page is dead flat and it's going to be perfect to work on. Now you can see in the middle where I've had that puddle, you don't have as much interest in the colours as you do on the top or the bottom, and that's just because of that big puddle of liquid. That's why you want to try and avoid that. But I've got enough interesting patterns on here that it's going to make a beautiful journal background. I can't wait to use this. Now that my page is dry, I'm going to use an eraser to remove the masking fluid or the frisket. Now you need to do this basically as soon as you can, because the longer you leave this on the page, the more likely that some of the paper is going to come away with the masking fluid as you remove it. Now, I promised at the beginning of this clip that this was going to be a simple page, and I'm sticking to that. So I'm using my mini flying geese stencil to add some birds to the top of my page. Now I know what design I'm going to use, so I know these will be perfect. I'm also using my Copic multi-liner for this because it's beautiful and fine, and I've found that this goes over my Lindy's Stamp Gang Starburst spray background like butter. It's absolutely beautiful to use and work on these, and no, the sparkles do not clog the nib, in case you were wondering. Now I'm also going to draw an image myself. I'm having a go at a dandelion, and I'm going to add 3 rings of the little flower parts to make it look like it's got some depth. Then I'm going to add a few of the little wispy dandelion seeds floating up into the birds. Now I'm using those same Copic markers for all of this, and you can see how gorgeous the black looks against the sparkle and the pearly shimmer of the Lindy's Stamp Gang Starburst sprays. To finish this off, I'm going to add a little bit of journaling just down one side. Now I've taken a familiar quote and kind of changed it a little bit so it's more my own. I've used those same Copic markers for this since they looked so beautiful before. Now when you have a look up close, you can see the absolute black of those Copic multi-liners on the gorgeous shimmery background. I love that combination of matte black and sparkle. For me, it's just heaven on a page. I hope you've enjoyed this and it's given you a few ideas about how to use things in a more simple way. Bye.